it's starting to go live. So we got all this admin stuff we got to get through. This is always the wonky part of the show. So
should I go ahead and share my screen now?
No. Just hold off. We'll get to that. Okay. Hey, everybody, bear with us while we get organized here. So, hey, everybody, Sean Dodson here with The Flip Side. I want to welcome you all again to another episode of Flip the Script. That is a show where you, the guest, get to flip it on Flipped, and you get to pick the topic. So, again, guys, this is the non-PC, beer-drinking, thrill-of-the-chase talking show. So, tonight, I'm drinking a brew called Cholo Stout from Marble Brewery out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I'm going to pop the top. Hopefully you have your beverage of choice, some popcorn, and you're kicking your feet up. And while I'm doing that, I want to introduce my guest, Eddie, and I'm not going to pronounce his last name because I will completely chop it up. But he says, and this is how a white boy says it, Juaregui. And I know that's completely messing it up. So Eddie, want to go ahead and say hi to everybody in the chat room, kind of introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. Close enough, Sean. Juaregui.
Thank you.
We'll get it. Thank you. Hey, Sean, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. To answer your question, I am having a Kona IPA. I'm about to kill this one and start another one.
Where's that out of? Kona IPA. Where's?
I'm guessing Hawaii. I don't know.
Hawaii. Okay. Hey, is that Kona like Kona, right?
That's correct. Kona Brewing
then
Company.
It would be from Hawaii then. Awesome.
That's good. So let me just tell the audience a little bit about myself. I'm originally from LA, which I'm sure a lot of people don't want to hear. But I ended up moving to Vegas in 2010 to finish my degree. It took me a long time to get that degree. In 2015 is when I found out about the chest. I didn't do anything about it. I just heard about it in 2016 on one of my summer breaks. I spent about a week searching and researching, and I mean a week, like 24 hours, 7 days straight, doing a bunch of research. It led me to Yellowstone, and I'm a Yellowstone guy. And so in 2018, I finally made the trip last year. Didn't find the chest, obviously. And now I'm back to square one. So I don't know where to go from now. So this is kind of where we're at right now. And so when I talked to you about the show, we kind of said, well, what's the show going to be about? And I said, well, I want to talk about where it's not, which sounds so stupid, right? Like, well, we all know where it's not, right?
We're masters of figuring out where it's not, is what we all are.
Right. So, but I think by asking certain questions and by saying where it's not, eventually we can figure out where it is. Maybe. So that's where I'm at right now. And so, you ready to go, Sean?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say hi to everybody in the chat room, and I've got to give a shout out to Sir Crow, who is actually our front running bastard in the show tonight. But I also want to say hi to a couple others in there. We've got Mike No Dine, Michael Elder, Hot Rod Mauve, Huli, how are you? Jan Schutz 174, William, how are you out there in Florida? Snuggles, hi Snuggles. Lori James, our friend out there in I think the Buena Vista area or somewhere. Tony Driver, CMC, Tom Sawyer, Dirk, sup? Sledneck, hey Sledneck, you made a live show. Good to see you in here. Awesome. Alan K, how are you? Anon. Red X, how are you, brother? Jan Schultz already said hi. All pain, no gain. Cheers to the flip side. Hello, Sean and the room. Jimmy Slow-Mo, you were definitely slow tonight, Jimmy. You got in there like way late. Slowing down in your old age there, Jimmy. Journeyman, haven't seen you in a while. How are you? And I think I caught up with every. Belva Jenkins, how are you? Hatchet Jack, Finders Keepers, DW, Beer. That's right. What is that one country song? I'm going to do a little flip on that country song, but it says, Fenn is great, beer is good, and you people are crazy. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, Sean.
So this is Flip the Script, the show where the guest gets to flip it on Flip. And tonight, Eddie's topic was where the treasure isn't. And I think you kind of described that a little bit. So now I'm going to turn it over to you, Eddie. you've got the con, brother. Let's go down this rabbit hole.
Thanks, Sean. And by all means, I'm open to questions. I'm very transparent. I'm kind of an open source guy. So eventually, at the end of the show, you'll kind of figure out where I'm trying to go with this. And I'm open to anybody finding the chest. I just want this thing to be over with already, to be honest with you. So if anybody finds it, if I can help you, then by all means, more power to you. So I ended up moving back to Vegas after I went back to LA, couldn't take it. I don't want to get into that.
So you're in Vegas now, right?
I'm in Vegas now.
What do you do in Vegas, if you don't mind me asking? Kind of just butting in on you a little bit.
I got my degree in landscape architecture from UNLV,
Okay.
and I came back, and right now I'm working independently. I'm working on the Raider Stadium, to be honest with you.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. It's I can't get into too much detail, but it's really weird because they thought of everything. Maybe it is related because they thought of everything. The mascot has a room. They have their own bathroom. The Raiderettes have their own shower. They thought of everything. The Gatorade has its own room, right? So
the Gatorade has its own room.
I'm gonna get in trouble talking about this, but yeah. So I do CAD designs and stuff like that. So I'm not ready to get back into an office. I should get my degree. I should get my license in architecture, but I have to go through internships and stuff like that, and I'm just not ready for that. It took me a long time to get my degree, and I'm enjoying nature. So, that's one of the things that I'm grateful for Fenn is that when I went to Yellowstone last year, I drove through Idaho, through through Montana, and I found a new appreciation for farmers, for just nature itself, and
just how big our country is. Like, really.
Wow.
I think that people that come, from out of the country, from other smaller countries, they get here and they're amazed at how wide open this country is too. It's amazing.
I've never flown, Sean. I'm shit scared.
Really?
I've never flown. The closest I've been to flying is walking inside the Spruce Goose when it was in Long Beach. So I just don't fly. So I drive everywhere. So
my wife would agree with you on that.
Yellowstone was my first trip, like anywhere, pretty much, and so it was awesome. So I ended up moving back to Vegas.
Did you fly into Yellowstone?
No, I've never flown.
Okay,
I drove 13, 14 hours.
Yeah.
I drove up there. The rental car people were tripping out when I drove back, and they saw 2,000 miles in 3 days.
Hopefully you got the unlimited miles.
I did. So I moved back to Vegas, and I'm in Vegas now, which I love. So I'm an odds guy. I'm not a big gambler, but I go to the casino every once in a while and bet on sports and what have you. So I dropped out of enough statistics classes to know enough to get me in trouble. So I tried to figure out what the odds are of finding the chest. So I'm just going to ask you, what do you think the odds are of finding the chest? Like the probabilities.
Yeah, I'm not a numbers guy, so I probably couldn't come up with those numbers. I mean, you probably have to factor in there's 9 clues. We're all subjective humans. Everything is completely subjective. I'm sure the odds are completely astronomical.
Exactly.
Of one, we've got 350,000 people supposedly that are searchers. That number could be off by whatever, who knows. And we're just one person in those 350,000. So you'd think it'd be 1 in 350,000, but I don't think that's accurate.
No, they're way.
No, let's not do math on live.
I'm not trying to, and that's why, because I couldn't even do the math because the numbers were so outrageous, and so you literally have better chances of winning the lottery twice than you do of finding the chest. That's that's my opinion, right? And so it's math based, but it's still kind of my opinion. But that being said, I'm trying to reduce the odds of being astronomical to being feasible. So in other words, the odds of winning the lottery are kind of up there, but maybe we can kind of lower the odds to where maybe somebody might get lucky, right? So how do we go about doing that? And the way I started thinking about it was, okay, I went to on my solve and I figured out where it's not. That's one spot where I know it's not.
Yep.
What if we can kind of start deducing where it's not, and that'll help us figure out where it is.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, so in my opinion, following Fenn's instructions hasn't worked. I've tried. That's what I did, and it didn't work. I think a lot of people have tried doing it, and it hasn't worked. So I'm gonna kind of reveal my solve, if that's okay.
No, it's not.
No, it's not there. It's not a big deal. So let me.
You don't. I mean, and then I think some people think that just because they went there and they looked and they had I hate to call it a failed solve, because I don't think any solve has failed until somebody actually finds it and proves everybody else, I hate to say wrong, but that they were right. So I like to call it like a failed recovery. All you did, Eddie, is you failed to recover the treasure. That's all you did. You didn't really fail with your solve, because you could have been 13 feet away from it theoretically. I mean,
I hear what you're saying, but I wasn't. I wasn't close, and that's part of what my point is.
I'm a glass half full kind of guy.
I hear you, but I mean, I'm a realist, and in this case, the reality was I was wrong, and so but the important question is, why was I wrong? And I think that's kind of what I'm trying to get to.
Okay,
Sean, can you see my screen?
I can see your screen.
Okay.
Hopefully, everybody in the chat room can see it if you're sharing it properly, which I'm sure you are. If I can see it.
Okay, hopefully.
So if you guys in the chat room can see it, just give me a thumbs up or something. Make sure we got it.
Okay, so really quick, I got my degree in landscape architecture. We do something called site analysis, where if we have a site we're going to design on, we do an analysis of wind, noise, all kinds of stuff, what have you. So one of the reasons I went to landscape architecture was because in California they were dealing with drought. I thought I might be going back to California, which I did, but didn't. I ended up coming back. So a lot of people don't realize that in 2010 the Rockies were basically, it was drought. It was a drought.
Really?
Drought. Not a lot of water in the Rockies in 2010. It doesn't look that way. I'm kind of comparing these two imageries from 2010 and 2018, and it doesn't look like there was much difference, but there was. So let me take you to the next screen if I can. Am I there? Give me a second, Sean.
Yep. You're fine. I lost my chat room, so.
You lost the chat room, huh?
Well, not the chat room. I lost the pop-up chat, so I can't see them chatting. Let me grab my iPad while we're doing this. So you keep going. I'm good. See your dogs.
Oh man, you're gonna make me cry, man. One of them passed away. The other one's right here.
I'm sorry, brother.
That's all right.
That's not good. Do you have them for a while, or you don't want to talk about it? I don't want to get you upset.
Yeah, don't get me upset. I'm trying to figure out where this next slide is. Oops, sorry guys.
It's live TV, folks. Anything can happen.
Guys, I told you, Sean. I told you this, man. I told you.
You're doing fine.
I told you. Sean has backup slides, guys. So blame him. Let me do this.
Yes, blame me. Okay.
Give me a second, Sean.
You're fine.
Where am I? Oh, see, it's not letting me for some reason. I don't know. Oh, I know why. Give me a second. Give me 2 seconds, guys.
You're good. So Eddie, since you're out in Vegas, have you met like Cal Lazars, Mike Cowlings, or DeCall Thomas, or anybody out there?
Yeah, we went to Mike. We met. We had a couple beers. He took me to see Penn and Teller.
Oh, awesome! How was that?
It was good. It's good. I liked it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so here's kind of where I started my solve. Do you see it, Sean?
Yep. Okay,
so this is Madison Junction, and I'm sure a lot of people have that as their where warm waters halt.
Yeah.
So that's mine also. So we have 3 different routes here. This is the parking lot. Can you hear me, Sean?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, this is the parking lot, and this is the actual point where the 3 rivers meet.
Correct.
The Gibbons,
the Fire Hole, and the
Madison.
Yep.
Okay. So I went actually down, followed the actual river. I actually went down the canyon to where I basically couldn't walk anymore. And the reason I did that was because before I went to Yellowstone, I went virtually on Google Earth and kind of started at Warm Waters Halt and just kind of went virtually and said, okay, how far can I go? And it took me to this place where there's a couple of canyons and I wouldn't be able to walk anymore. So I said, okay, that's where it might be too far to walk. The Homer Brown might be right next to there, et cetera, et cetera. But I was wrong, obviously. But the thing I wanted to talk about was this red line is the pathway where most people would drive if they started here.
Yeah.
So this is the parking lot. But if you were to kind of drive, then you would kind of go this way down the canyon. This yellow line is a trail that I believe is closed. I'm not sure if it's closed or not, but that I believe is the trail that Fenn would have taken as a boy on his bike, because this road wouldn't have been there at the time.
Yeah.
So I think I try to think as Fenn would as a boy, when I try to think about the chase, like what, him as a boy, and him in Yellowstone as a boy, he would have taken down this road or maybe veered off this way. So I thought maybe this is where it might be, right? I was wrong, obviously. So here's kind of a zoom of that area.
Yeah.
I thought too far to.
Is that the Fire Hole Falls right there in the center?
Yeah. So this is maybe, I want to say this is right before the swimming area. The swimming area, I want to say, is maybe 500,000 feet down.
Okay.
So the thing about this was, I knew by looking at it before going that I could have easily just parked my car here and gone directly to it had I wanted to. But I wanted to kind of recreate what I thought Fenn did, or what I think he did. And so I actually went down, the Madison, et cetera, et cetera.
You physically walked the clues.
Exactly. Yeah. Which I shouldn't have done.
That's a long way to walk.
Well, so it's about a mile and a half. It wasn't too bad.
It was pretty rocky terrain.
So I'll tell you a funny story. So I'm walking down, and and there's this cute girl, and she says, "Where are you going?" And I said, "I'm too far to walk." And she says, "Do you need a ride?" I said, "No, I'm okay." And I should have said yes.
She said too far to walk. That was like a perfect opening line for you, and you totally blew it. All single guys, are going to be using that now.
Well, that's how I'll tell you, man.
That's
how I'll tell you I'm obsessed. I mean, there's this cute chick, right there, and here I am
thinking about the treasure.
Right. So. Yeah.
Well, I got a question. A question came up from GCG, who's known as Gregory Colvin Garcia, and I want to ask this before we got too far into this. But he asked, and this is to you, Eddie. He says, "What in the poem drives him conclusively to the Fire Hole or West Yellowstone?" So I think what GCG is kind of saying, hopefully I can synopsize what he's asking here,
right,
is, Eddie, what in the poem drove you to think the Fire Hole or West Yellowstone in that area?
Okay, so to answer this question, it happened by accident. When I was reading the book, he talked about biking 20 some odd miles, and when I kind of started doing that on the map, it took me to this area by default, because or on the way, I should say. The 20 miles from where he bikes from West Yellowstone to wherever it was, I want to say is Ojo Caliente. Like if you bike 20 miles, then it would be about Ojo Caliente-ish. So, but I ended up veering up to the right just because, hey man, if I'm a kid, I want to see it all. I want to kind of just see what's there, right?
I can imagine that first half of the bike ride from like West Yellowstone to at least Madison Junction is pretty level. It's pretty level. But then when you hit the Madison Junction, you start going up, or it should be south the canyon up towards Ojo Caliente. That's a little bit of an incline.
It is.
I've driven that, and I know what that's like. I mean, I can't imagine what it was like back when he was a teenager or whatever, but sure, on a bike.
Right. The second part, the second.
Hope that answers your question, GCG.
Well, no, there's more to it.
Okay.
The other part to it is the fact that he says warm waters halt, where he could have said where that there's plural. So we have a situation where we have three rivers, plural, combining in one area.
Yeah.
So it's not just one area; it's warm water.
Yeah, and it does it. I mean, I tell you, Eddie. I mean, my solve, one of my first solves, in the Yellowstone area at least, was very similar to this. I mean, it was Warm Waters Halt was the Madison Junction. Because I've said this in a video before. It seems so logically obvious. He has such an affinity. He talks about in the Thrill of the Chase book for Yellowstone, and you've got two of probably the warmest rivers in the world, if at least in the United States, that being the Gibbons and the Fire Hole, being geothermally fed, meeting together. They're both warm water, so to speak, being different rivers by themselves, meeting up at one place and then continuing on. Their names halt and become the Madison. And, my good friend DeCall Thomas and I've talked about, I mean, it just seems like so logical and a very easy answer, very simple answer, really, so
it does,
I get where you're coming from.
Yeah. So, but I was wrong. And I'll be honest with you, the area that I think we're looking at, I don't think it's within that area. And when it comes to Warm Waters Halt, this is the number one choice supposedly, but I I'm tending to think that it's not it. And one of the reasons, Sean, and I kind of want to get into this, was the debate of I kind of want to get into this debate of whether online clues take place within on the ground or not. In other words, if he got out of the car, at what point in the poem does he get out of the car? So let's just say in theory that this is Warm Waters Halt and you're in the car and you take it in the canyon down, then my question becomes, like, if it's farther down, then why wouldn't you just start the poem where you get out of the car, right? So that's a question I have. I haven't answered it, but
I think that's part of the interpretation of the poem. Where are we physically supposed to begin it where Warm Waters Halt, or are we supposed to park our car somewhere else? I think that's, there's a lot of different interpretations and people look at it completely different ways. And that's part of the mystery and the fun of this, is trying to figure that out.
I'm going to kind of piss a little people off, but I think if you're in a car, then you just don't get it. The point of the chase is to get you out to nature. And if you're in a car, then you're not in nature. So get out of the effing car.
People driving around in their cars looking for a blaze, right? Because that's a clue in the poem, Forrest Fenn says.
Good luck. I mean, good luck. So speaking of that, this little FF I have, I thought that's where the blaze might be. Okay. I think that's what the blaze is. I think the blaze is going to be a small little FF somewhere engraved into some kind of rock, something permanent. Okay. I think that's what the blaze is. But let me kind of get back to where I was and why I was wrong. So I kind of walked, and I went too far to walk because there's these canyons where basically, okay, I have to cross the stream. I have no choice. I can't walk anymore. I have to swim, right? So that's where my too far to walk was. I ended up crossing the river earlier because I knew I wanted to get to this side.
Yeah.
And that was a huge mistake. But before I get to that, I thought this was yeah. I thought this was the home of Brown because the warm water comes this way and then the cold water hits the rocks, and this is where trout kind of eat. That's where they eat. So I thought that's where it might be good.
So your home of Brown was associated with maybe brown trout. Is that kind of what you were thinking? Okay.
Yeah. And the reason for that is because when I read Flywater, I bought the expensive version of Flywater.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And when I read it, they mentioned something about a tree that looks like it has never been there before. I'm sorry, that looks like it has been there forever. And when I did my research, there's this one tree. I don't know if you can zoom in on it. And it kind of looks like, okay, it looks like it's kind of been there forever, and you can kind of sit on there and just kind of do some fishing, right?
Right.
So I thought that might work. Now here's the other thing. Where we go? What happened, Sean? Sorry.
No, you're fine.
So
But I like how you've got your 500 foot and your 200 foot lines here.
Yeah, I was about to talk about that. So before I went on foot, I drove down there and I parked my car here, and it made me think, had I been with somebody else, they would have had to stay in the car because if a ranger would have came by, it was in a no parking zone.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. Yeah.
So I had to make sure that I didn't park my car there, but I wanted to kind of make sure
that lines up with him saying, if a weekly words, if you have a searching partner, have them wait in the car. Is that what you were thinking?
Exactly.
Along the lines of that. Okay.
Yeah. But then I also said, okay, if I can get to this point right here, which is kind of the point before I get to the rapids, it's 200 feet to where I thought it might be.
Yeah. Well, it kind of makes sense where, Forrest Fenn has said, many people have been within 500 feet of the treasure. And then he's only really kind of confirmed that several people, and we know his definition of several is more than two, but not many, have been within the treasure. So that kind of points out you're kind of justifying that and what you're doing there. I see what you're doing. Yeah.
So I ended up climbing right around here, and I ended up on these cliffs. And I mean, I'm standing on these cliffs. I'm doing this, right? I'm doing an Evel Knievel, right? And there's water coming down really, really hard. I mean, this rock right here was covered. I couldn't even see this.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So all these rocks were covered in water. These rapids were coming heavy, and one slip and I could have easily cracked my head open and been a goner. So I'm standing on this cliff. I'm staring up there and I'm thinking, man, it's right here. It's right here. I need to get there. And then I realized, you know what? He wouldn't come up here. And I just turned around. So as I turn him around, I'm kind of right here and I take a dive. I take a fall into this little area right here.
Oh no.
The good thing is it only came up to about right here.
Still, I mean, that's pretty scary. I mean,
It was scary.
If
So
the water's moving fast.
So I'm going back, and I look up, and I can see people that were kind of up near where the roadway is.
Right.
And I can see them pointing at me, like, "Look at that crazy fuck!" Right?
They're like, "Look at that! There's another one of them crazy Forrest Fenn treasure hunter guys."
So it was funny. It was an adrenaline rush. But let me digress. I researched right here, and if you can see this little patch of grass right here,
yeah.
I thought, okay, that might be a good place to die, right? If you can get there, and if I can just lay down there.
If you had made it there, you might die.
Yeah, right. Shoot. Right. So, but nonetheless, I thought if Fenn was going to die with the chest in his lap, that's kind of an area where he could have done it.
Sure.
And I thought maybe the blaze might be engraved in rock right here. Right. I was wrong. I didn't even get there. Right. So I don't know if the chest is there or not. Let me take that back. It's not there. Why isn't it there? Because I didn't see any animals, and that's one of the things, right?
Or do we think a 79 or 80-year-old man could have made it there?
Right. So that being said, do you have that video?
Yeah. Let's see if I can. You'll have to stop sharing so I can share.
Oh, you know what? Okay. Or maybe I could just.
So you go to stop share, or you can pull up yours if you've got it.
Yeah, I think I got it. I have it right here. So. Oh, that's the wrong one. So the thing I want people to kind of notice about this is that I was on the other side of this cliff, okay? And people from the road didn't see me when I was on the other side. They didn't see me until I was right here, until I was coming back, right? And so here it is, 500 feet from the road, 200 feet from where this point right here,
yep.
and it's out of view.
Yeah.
So I think that maybe wherever the chest is might be in an area similar to this, right? And so when I got back, so I took my little fall, I walked back, and what ended up happening was
your wet walk of shame. Was that it?
Yeah, basically. No. To make things even worse, I walked back, and for some reason, my dumb ass decides to cross the Madison, right?
No.
So it's marsh. It's bad. And so I start walking in the Madison, and the next thing I know is like, oh, wait a minute. Like, I don't know if there's ground in the next step, right? Yeah. So it got bad. So I jump in my car. I finally make it back. I made it back safe. I get back in the car. I'm so amped up. I made it back home to Vegas in 10 hours straight. Like, boom. I didn't even
Wow, that's booking it.
Right. So I get back, and away.
And tell people, and this is something we've all gone through, and I hate to cut you off here, Eddie, but I want to talk about this real quick. And we've all done this.
Right.
What is that drive home like? What was your drive home like? What is going through your mind?
I was amped up, man. To be honest, I was so happy I didn't get killed, to be honest with you. That I was just like, man, just get home and regroup, right? But so I was amped up. That's the short answer.
Mm-hmm.
The long answer was on the way back home. It was daytime, and Utah. Oh, I forgot Utah. Utah's gorgeous, man. Utah.
Yeah, it is.
I just saw some beautiful country, man, and honestly, that alone was life changing. I don't want to get too much into that, but it was amazing. So my instinct was, as soon as I got home, I emailed Fenn, like, hey man, here's my situation. Here's my solve. My problem is that I went to an area where I thought was dry, but now is wet. So how do you know that you didn't put it in a place that's not dangerous? Blah, 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 blah. Right. So then I emailed him right away saying, sorry, I didn't realize that I broke protocol by sending you a solve. So obviously he didn't respond, but nonetheless, let me kind of go to the next slide. So again, I ended up answering my own question over the last year. So again, one of the reasons I decided to study landscape architecture was because there was drought at the time, and I kind of wanted to address that. Sure. So these are some different images from that area. So the one in 2009 isn't the one I wanted to find, but this kind of gives you an idea of how much water there was over time. And if you look at the one from, let me see, 2018, I can tell you right now that it's the Google Earth. Don't trust Google Earth, man. It's a lot more dangerous, or whatever you want to call it, than what it looks on.
The terrain is completely different. I mean, if you
wow,
it's crazy.
That being said, if you want to use time-lapse imagery, I used Google Earth 2017. I like it as a better tool. But if you kind of look at the middle one, this one right here, you kind of see right here where it's not so deep, right? So you can kind of see where it just, I can tell you a test from firsthand. It was probably, like I said, about here.
Yeah.
So it was deeper. So the thing I want people to understand is that the Rockies experienced drought in 2010. So here's one thing I think people understand. Forrest spent so much time writing this poem. Imagine if he goes to hide the chest and all of a sudden, well, there's drought and there is no water high. The water high isn't there, right?
Okay.
Now all of a sudden that throws this poem all out of a loop, right? So the answer to my own question was, this is telling me that if indeed water high is water, that the water has to be a body of water that was big enough to withstand drought, right? So I think that eliminates a lot of the dry creeks. I think this kind of helps us figure out where it might, where it is. Like I said, we're trying to figure out where it isn't, but when it comes to drought, if you kind of ask yourself, hey, what was this area like in 2010? And ask yourself, was there a lot of water there? Sure. It might help you, right? That kind of thing.
Well, if you're go back to that slide really quick. Well, if you're no, right there, yeah. If you're like me, and I've talked about the possibility of there potentially being a water crossing, somewhere in the poem that you have to do, whether that's the path that just the words in the poem, take you across, or the actual physical, path that you have to take to get where the treasure chest is. This kind of falls in line with that, because if there really was, some kind of drought, in the Rocky Mountains in 2010, that might have made it a lot easier for a 79 or 80-year-old Forrest Fenn to be able to make a water crossing, because the water levels weren't so high.
Right.
And again, now we fast forward to 2018. Again, the Rocky Mountains were having a bit of a drought, a huge drought, really, compared to 2019. And 2018 was the year that Forrest Fenn had said, he had a gut feeling that it was going to be found, this summer. And we were having a drought. So if it was a similar drought that we were experiencing in that time frame that he hid the treasure, maybe that's what precipitated his gut feeling that if there is a water crossing, whether that be the path or the direct path or whatever, that the water levels were low enough that it could have gave more people the opportunity to cross, those people that were not as meek or something else that they may have been able to cross. So just a thought when you were going over this, that just kind of occurred to me. So
I hear what you're saying. So I think when it comes to the water, I think I'm going to kind of digress. I'm going to kind of veer off a little bit. And when I kind of started asking myself, okay, how does water have to do with this? I started asking myself, about this water high and et cetera, and what kind of bodies of water will withstand drought. And I'm going to kind of veer off into my war for me. And I'm kind of going to make the claim that in that story, that Fenn is the chest. So, he got shot down in Vietnam, et cetera, and he became the prize. In other words, he's the POW, and he's, people are trying to find him, and he becomes the prize. The enemy's trying to find him, and so I asked myself, if I'm in Vietnam and I'm trying to get away from the enemy, where am I going to go, right? And I kind of said, you know what, I'm going to go to a place where I don't think anybody else would think of going.
Sure.
Right. And so I think that the reason that story is so important is because Fenn is a metaphor for the chest in that story. And so in that story, he goes to a waterfall. And so I think that the chest is by a waterfall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think you're in good company there. I think a lot of people think that.
Okay. Yeah. So that being said, I'm going to kind of say something like, I think it's a little profound. People say, okay, 200 feet this way, right? 200 feet this way, 500 feet this way. Nobody thinks about going up, right? What if the chest could be, I could be 5 feet, this way, but it's 200 feet this way.
There's a lot of people that have talked about elevation, that it could be people have been, right next to a potential cliff face and it's 200 feet above them. Right. They just haven't, that's why they've been so close or something. There's been some discussion of it. I mean, it's hard to find. I mean, you've really got to be on top of the forums to find discussions like that.
So, I've taken an approach from a landscape architect point of view. I've taken an approach from like a detective point of view. When I got back, attorneys kind of do what they. I'm not an attorney, but they kind of talk about when they finish the case, they kind of do a debriefing of what they did right and wrong in the case.
Yeah.
So I've kind of done that. I kind of took, okay, what in the military, what kind of a approach would a military guy take? And like I said, I think because he's a metaphor for that in that story, and that's a military story, that I think it's something to consider. If indeed he is a metaphor for the chest, and he's by a waterfall, then maybe the chest is by a waterfall. So that kind of
hasn't. I mean, his original plan was to intern himself with the treasure chest. So I get kind of what you're saying. He is. We're trying to find his location.
Okay,
that
so
it was going to be his resting spot, so to speak.
Right.
So he's going to make it difficult, but not impossible. He may put obstacles in there, metaphorically or physically, to prevent people from finding him, the enemy, as you say it. It's an interesting analogy. I like it.
Yeah.
And
so
I've got a couple of questions here, and I don't want to miss those up or obviously trip up our train of thought, but I don't want to. There's people here watching this, and we owe them the courtesy of answering their questions or talking to them. There was one here from Joel Lewicki, and Joel says, has Eddie looked anywhere else in Yellowstone?
Man, I went to Yellowstone. I went straight to where I thought it was. Had a bad time. Didn't really, I got to the place where I shouldn't have been, and I just wanted to get back. So the answer is no. I hope to go back, and I think I have I think I have a solve, but I don't. I'll be honest with you.
You still like Yellowstone.
I do. I still like Yellowstone. I like Yellowstone and New Mexico. I'm kind of thinking those are the kind of two states, one or the other. Sorry to you, Colorado people and Montana people.
Well, those are the two areas he speaks so fondly of. I mean, he lives in one, and the other he spent his lifetime in. Those are, to most people, the obvious choices. Sure.
I'm just going by my gut, Sean. To be honest with you, when I read the books and I read the poem and I went back and read the books, my gut just says Yellowstone. Yeah. And going back to William Ortiz, I think the other question, when I read the second book, I think one of the first chapters said God did something about God, then the fire hole, and I stopped right there. Okay, boom, I'm gonna go right there, right?
Yeah.
So until I'm gonna go south. I'm gonna search south, a little farther south, and kind of eliminate that area. And because I know a lot of people have already searched it, there's a little area that I think people haven't searched that I kind of want to kind of rule out. So that being said, I think this kind of is good into what I want to get into because.
And then one other question from Joel. Sorry.
Go for it.
Joel just asked what time of the year were you there?
Thank you for asking, because I went in June, and this is what's interesting. It was beautiful. It was gorgeous, and that water was it was pristine. I mean, I wasn't cold at all, and so. That kind of hurts me because I always thought that if you're in the cold, it's because of the water that you had to go through water.
Yeah.
But that water was really it was awesome.
We are talking about the fire hole. I mean, it is all fed by geothermals. And then William Ortiz asked, at the flip side, I understand his 3 photos, the ones we've got shown up here, but he says, did you account for certain months of snow runoff?
Yes. So before and after I went on my chest, I went on the USGS website, and I would get a text every single hour letting me know what the I forgot what the CFS is.
Yep.
Cubic feet per second.
Cubic feet per second. Smart.
Yeah.
Good.
And
That's
so
good that you were doing that.
I checked that. So, I want to say that's an interesting point, and I didn't pull that up. In 2010, let me kind of go through this. In 2010, let me kind of brainstorm. In 2010, the CFS was really, really low. Really low. And I think that's kind of what led me to think that maybe it might be in an area where the water might not be there as much as it is now. If you look at the CFS comparisons from 2010 to to now, they're huge. Because of the drought. Yeah. And so
if you compare them with last year, 2018 to this year, it's all throughout the Rockies. It's amazing.
Yeah. So I did account for that. And so I tried to go. And so I would get a text every hour saying, here's the CFS, here's a CFS.
Yeah.
I tried to go somewhere when it was around 300. Because
that's pretty low.
I I want to say it was
but
around
also the depth is what really counts too. I mean, you could have 300 CFS and it be a foot deep and you're fine. You get in a place where it's 4 feet deep and you're above your waist, it can knock your feet out from underneath you.
So if you looked at that one video I had, let me see if I can pull it up again. Oh, that one video, I don't want to pull it up because it's going to slow down with it.
Yep.
That one video I had, the rocks were exposed, right? So you could have stepped on the rocks. When I went there, those rocks must have been 2 or 3 feet underwater.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Yep.
So the conditions changed dramatically from 2010 to 2018, and I think that's something people have to consider. So that being said, let me go to the website, Sean. Let me go.
Okay.
So somebody who's smarter than me came up with this website. And if you want to get this guy a coffee, you could.
What's the website called?
It's called Into the Forest.
And I'll put a link in the video description below so you guys can find this when we get it.
So somebody kind of beat me to this idea. This guy did a really good job of kind of mapping out certain things. So in this case, if you click on 5,000 to 10,200 feet, it maps out the areas that are within that range.
Yeah.
If you believe that the area is filled with sage and pine, et cetera, et cetera. And Sean, I'm sorry if this slows down. So here's another. If you want to figure out where there's boiling water, this is a really, really cool website. And I want to add to this. I'm going to email the guy and say, hey, you know what? I know you're not working on this, but we want to add to this. And so I'm kind of asking the search community to say, hey, you know what can we add to this to kind of narrow down the areas of where it might be? Like I said, I'm a probabilities guy, and I just want to narrow down the probabilities. And I think if we kind of rule out certain areas that we just pretty much know that the probabilities are low, then we'll get a better map.
Right.
As I was searching today,
so I think probably 90% of the search community would say, well, then we just need to block out Colorado completely.
I don't want to offend anybody, man. I don't. There's nothing in my my research that indicates Colorado. Sorry, guys. Sorry. It's gorgeous though. So off topic for you people in Colorado, but it's not off topic. Have you heard of the Beacon, the bourbon tea and breakfast?
The one treasure hunt. I think Mike Cowlings talked a lot about it and did a lot of good stuff on that.
Right. So there's another one called the Beacon Star.
Okay.
It's kind of weak, but I think it's in Denver, but whatever. Anyways, but excuse me. So that being said, off topic. So just so people know, the breakfast tea and bourbon chest.
Yeah.
The guy that wrote and did that treasure hunt, he filmed himself burying it in a national park. Okay. The people that found it in a national park.
So it was really in a national park.
It was in and not only the guy filmed himself burying it.
So where's Minotaur Marino? Is in here tonight because he was apparently like 20 feet away from that.
from the beacon the breakfast
the breakfast tea and bourbon, like he actually was like within 20 feet of it.
So good. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm the first to admit if I'm wrong. If somebody can prove me wrong. From my understanding, that was in a national park, and the guy that hid that chest filmed himself hiding that chest.
Yeah.
Which, it's illegal, right? So I think that set a precedent. Whereas if the chest is in a national park and it gets found, you can go to the government and say, hey, wait a minute, that other chest was found. Not only was it found, but it was buried, and you didn't do jack. So
they're working in cahoots. Breakfast tea and bourbon was working in cahoots with Forrest Fenn. Guys, folks, it's in a national park. It has to be.
Well, a precedent's been set.
Yeah.
Well, I think it has to be.
Hey, Sasha, I saw you jump in there.
The reason I think it's in a national park is because the flap of the cover says it's going to take a Maverick.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, a Maverick is a rule breaker, and if you're not breaking the rules, then
it's like he said he's a self-proclaimed maverick. He likes to bounce off the edges. You don't know where the edge is unless you go out there and look. So I mean, sure, you can completely justify him hiding in a national park because he is somewhat of a rule breaker. Sure.
Well, I think a lot of people make the mistake of not putting themselves.
Bill Gorman says Jack is allowed to dig. Bring a dog. You just blame it on the dog. I didn't dig that damn hole. My damn dog did.
That's funny. So
good point. Good point, Bill. That's funny.
So-
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Eddie. I just
So
saw
I'm sorry. I'm hearing a couple of names that I on Facebook. So I'm Eddie Juaregui. I'm Eduardo Juaregui on Facebook. I'm the guy with no friends. I'm the asshole. I'm the guy that always. I'm the devil's advocate.
you probably have to fight somebody for that title.
I'm that guy. Okay? Just so you know, I'm that guy. Right. So that's me.
I see Davio 22, my brother from another mother, just popped in here. Hey, Davio, how are you? And I'm popping a top on another beer.
Okay.
So where are we going from here?
So you know what? So boom, I'm leaving Yellowstone, right? Okay. So what do I do now?
You said that this solve, you're kind of done with this solve, and you said in the very beginning of this, you're kind of in limbo. You're like, where do I go from here? What do I do? You're still kind of on Yellowstone. You still like that. So yeah, where does Eddie go from here now?
Well, the reason I like Yellowstone is that's a whole other show, but I think what this might kind of lead me into my next topic, which is I'm not taking Forrest's instructions anymore. Because there are multiple WWWHs, I think that number of probabilities, it just increases that number 1,000-fold, right? Which it makes it almost impossible.
Yeah, so there's many places where Warm Waters halt, and
so
nearly all of them are north of Santa Fe. So many could be, who knows how many? I mean,
we don't know. So that makes that number, that probability number, just that much more astronomical, right?
Yeah.
And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out certain geographical features where I think it might be, and try to and figure out, raise the probabilities of where it might be. So for example, I found a place called the Warm River, right? And I said, okay, that's where Warm Waters halt, and that Warm River ends in Thermopolis, right? And so I said, okay, I'm going to go there, and I'm going to take it in the canyon down. But then I realized, oh, wait a minute, that's Indian territory.
Well, what canyon is that? Just south of Thermopolis.
I've been
through there.
I want to say
Wind River Canyon.
I believe so.
Yeah, it's a beautiful canyon. Yeah,
I want to go check it out.
Yeah,
I want to go check it out. But my point is that I started there and I went in the canyon. Virtually, I'm doing this on Google Earth.
South.
I went south and I realized, hey, wait a minute, I can only go so far.
Right.
Because this is Indian reservation territory. Yeah. Now I know this is all mapped out on Fenn's map, but it's not lined out the way I kind of have it here, right? And so I think kind of this right here, like if you say, hey, it's not an Indian reservation because if you find it, it's not yours anyways. Well, now all of a sudden this rules out a whole other chunk of land.
Yeah.
Right. So let's start doing this. Let's start figuring out where it's not.
And the big reason that is because it's on the Wind River Indian Reservation.
That's correct. So,
yeah, and then you're saying if that's the canyon you're taking down through the Wind River Canyon, and you're going towards what is that, Shoshone, then you're ending up on Indian Reservation. We don't think that it's going to be on Indian land.
Well,
because it creates too many complications, right?
Well, if you think it's on Indian land and you're gonna go recover it, then I mean, good luck, because that's gonna be a huge mess. Trying to get out of there, and legally that's gonna be a huge mess. So really quick, one thing I learned in landscape architecture school, and a lot of people don't understand this, and this is gonna be controversial. And I think Fenn did this he probably didn't know this when he spoke to his attorney, but a lot of people don't realize that the government doesn't own what's inside waterways. Okay. Yeah. They don't own it. They don't own the fish. They don't own what's in those waterways. I forgot who are the exact stewards of the Yellowstone waterways. I want to say it's a combination of the three states above there.
Interesting.
But here's the thing. If the chest is inside a waterway, the government has zero case because they don't own what's in waterways. So
what about like the rocks on the riverbed? Do they not own them? Can you physically go in there? I mean, I don't know this. I'm asking this question. This is an interesting thing. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah,
we'd have to fact check it. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'd have to fact check you on that. And
if I'm wrong, I'm going to go to UNLV and ask for a refund, right? Because this is what kind of what I learned in research, that the government doesn't own what's inside waterways. It's like saying they own the fish. They don't own the fish. They regulate the fish, right?
Yeah, they can tell you got to catch and release, and you can't walk away with them or something. You got to
So with the precedent of the breakfast tea and bourbon, and with the waterway thing, I just take the chest and run, guys. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that stuff. Don't worry about the legal stuff about it. And here's the other thing. There's kind of been a question about how do we know the chest has been found. I don't want to mention the guy's name because whatever. So, but this guy sent me a video, and he showed me a video where Fenn says, if the chest was found, I wouldn't know, I might not know because I don't want to paraphrase it the wrong way. Basically, he said the person might not want to report it because the IRS and I wouldn't know about that kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So if we don't know whether the chest has been found or not, that kind of raises a lot of questions, right? So I kind of lost my train of thought. So let me kind of go back to this thing and this map. Okay. So what I'm kind of asking the search community to do is kind of, hey, give me suggestions, and I'm going to email this guy, and I'll give you my email. My email is Eddie the Architect. Although I have to disclose I'm not an architect yet. It's Eddie the Architect at yahoo.com. And if you email me, I'm going to kind of make contact with this guy and let me know what can we add to this map that's going to make it better, that's going to reduce the area of probabilities.
You're going to get a lot of emails of people saying where the treasure chest is what we want to know on a map.
Well,
but what I'll do is I'll put Eddie's email in the link or link it in the description below so you guys can email him if you want to. But yeah, I think it's interesting. You can email him stuff you want on there.
Yeah, so I thought when I was doing some research today, I found somebody else that did this kind of probability map. I hadn't seen this. This is today was the first day I saw this. And so I'm kind of looking at this, and it's kind of showing this probable, possible, impossible, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I'm sorry. This isn't a very good map. I mean, good luck, right? So this doesn't help us much. But if we kind of start asking ourselves questions, why was my solve wrong? What did I do wrong here? So I want to kind of do something kind of cheesy, and I'm going to present something called the dartboard challenge. Okay. So what I'm going to challenge people to do is this: print out the map, grab a dart, and just throw the dart at the map. Okay. And ask yourself at this point, why is it right or wrong? And if it's right, why? And if it's wrong, why? And if we can kind of start doing that, we can kind of start eliminating some of these areas, and it'll create the possible search map. It'll make it smaller. It'll make the probabilities bigger. I hope that's kind of the idea is that.
So what other kind of factors could you throw into this digital map what other kind of overlays can you put on it? So
somebody sent me a good suggestion on Facebook. Somebody said, hey, I want to know where the brush fires have been. And okay. I think that's a good one. Why? And I thought about it. Why? Because Fenn said that it could be some of the clues could be affected by fire. So that's a good thing to know. Hey, I want to know where there's been fire because forests regenerate and they kind of have fires, over and over again. So I just want to know those kinds of things. I don't know. God, this is where kind of I'm asking the search community to tell me what can we add to this to make it legit, to make it, so that
EC does it good. No, I'm probably making that wrong. Says in here, what about the lack of pinyon pines? Is that something that you can throw into that mix on there?
Absolutely. So if you go to that website, it's on there. You go here, it kind of says it's sage pine, right? You can kind of click on there. See that?
Yep.
So there's this video of these two guys.
Color, and you can zoom in on this, right? So let's zoom in on Yellowstone or anywhere that you want to zoom in on. Okay.
So really quick, there's a video of a couple of guys that have 3 solves, and it's a pretty popular video. And then in their final solve, it's obvious that they're not near pine trees. Like it's the I hate to say I took plant identification, and you want to learn what pine trees look like, right? Yeah. So that if you go and you say, hey, you know what, these aren't pine trees, then get the F out of there, right?
Right.
So I really like this map. I just want to add to it. I'm going to email the guy, but I need help from the community to say, what would be good to add to this so we can start narrowing down possible areas with higher probabilities. Yeah. So I'm going to start highlighting the waterfalls. He has this one thing where look at.
Well, that would be interesting. Yeah, if you could put waterfalls in there, a lot of people like that.
Yeah, I think he had.
Can it also?
There's the Continental Divide.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. A lot of people think the Continental Divide is where warm water's hauled. That's cool.
Yeah, there's a place where I thought I saw something where like
here, Jimmy Slow-Mo says in here, can that map remove reservation lands and private property?
So that's what I'm gonna do next. I'm gonna kind of ask the guy, hey, you know what? I'm gonna send him the map of the Wind River Reservation, and I'm gonna say, can you add these things? And I'm gonna pay him or what have you. But if you want to send this guy a coffee, you can go up to the FAC and.
I don't know why you'd want to remove the reservation lands or private property.
Well, I want to show it.
Jimmy, wouldn't you? Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was talking to Jimmy there. Jimmy, would you not want to show those things because then that that's an area you don't want to go into? I mean, I don't know. I guess I didn't understand maybe your question there, Jimmy.
National Forest. I thought I saw a button before where it had roads within 500 feet.
You know, wasn't there a feature on Google Maps, and maybe it's still there, where people can send in like their 360-degree, camera views and stuff of certain areas?
Yeah, so that's one of the ways I want to legitimize this. So
Yeah.
I gave my solve away, and I kind of said this is my rationale for the solve. Here, I didn't take pictures because I was trying not to get killed. But if somebody was to, go on a solve and let me know, hey, this is my solve. I failed. This is why I came into my solve, and give me a 360 panorama of that area. Boom! I want to put it on this map.
Of like the area of what they think Warmwater's Halt is, of
no, I want to
what
go.
They think their blaze is, or where they think the where they thought the treasure was.
Where they actually think the chest is. And
okay.
If you give me a 360 panorama of where that chest is, or where you thought the chest was, and you kind of explain to me where you thought it was, and you can provide your contact information, I'll put it on this map so people can be like, hey, you know what? I think it might be there, and I can kind of start. I think it'll help narrow down possible areas. That being said, I'm gonna kind of go into a rabbit hole.
Okay.
I'm gonna show this book. Can you see this book called The Shoshone?
Yeah. Well, why don't we stop sharing? So stop sharing. We could probably see the screen better. Everybody can see it. Your book. There you go.
Okay. So this Shoshone book I apologize.
I may be pronouncing it
wrong. I got this when after I heard. I'm sorry.
I may be pronouncing it wrong.
Oh, okay. I got this after I heard the quote about possibly smell. You'd see pine and smell pinyon, this and that. So I kind of went down that rabbit hole. So guys, just if you guys want to go down the rabbit hole, here's a big hint. The only way you can smell pinyon is if it's being burned. I'm sorry, pinyon nuts. Mm-hmm. The only way you can smell pinyon nuts is if they're being roasted. Otherwise, you're not going to smell them. So if you want to go down that rabbit hole, look for areas that are near reservations that are burning, that are roasting pinyon, or one of the few pinyon factories that are there. So
yeah, well here, can I cut you off really quick? William Ortiz has said something in the chat room. I know you don't have it up, but he said Minotaur Marino, who's been on our show before and he's a good friend of the show, has a program where he programmed in all the different where warm waters halt off the GNIS list, the government named something, geographically named information system or something. And he was talking about, I think, or William was saying that I think Minotaur Marino, Justin was talking about adding waterfalls to that whole list. So it might be worthwhile for the two of you to kind of connect up and see if there's something you guys can do together to put like his list of where warm waters halt places or whatever from the GNIS onto that.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
Now, Sean, here's the thing. Again, I don't think anybody's going to find this thing anytime soon. And now I'm sleeping better now because after I've kind of figured out these probabilities, ain't no one going to find this fucking thing, man. So I'm sleeping better now, right? So I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to get together because I'm trying to figure out, reduce that number. And I do think it's by a waterfall. So, but here's the thing. This kind of I'm looking at this as a 30-year project. If I find this thing in the next 30 years, more power to me. But so I'm just saying this thing's gonna take time, a lot of time, maybe years, but
sure.
as more people, if more people are willing to participate and say, here's our solve, and we can kind of start narrowing down that map, then I think our probabilities become feasible, not astronomical. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of challenging that people to do that dartboard challenge. Get a map, just throw a dartboard on the map and just say, hey, where did this land? And ask yourself, does this work? And if it works, why? And if it doesn't work, why not? And we can kind of start reducing the areas. And I think
now I've interrupted you and you were talking about the Shoshone book and about the burning of the pinyon.
Yeah.
So I totally threw you off track there.
I mean, it's an interesting book, but the essence is that if you believe that in that quote and you believe that you're going to smell pinyon nuts, then the only way to smell pinyon nuts is if they're being roasted. In other words, if they're just sitting there, if you have a 2-ton pile of pinyon nuts, you're not going to smell them, even if you're standing next to it. They have to be roasted. Yeah. So, I mean,
I don't know that for certain. I live here in New Mexico and I've never even had pinion nuts.
Yeah, there's some pine trees up in Mount Charleston here in Vegas. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go hunting.
Isn't that an amazing area, Mount Charleston? I mean, as a kid, up till I was 6 years old, I lived in Vegas.
Okay.
And we'd always go camping up in Mount Charleston area. It's amazing though. You'd be like in Vegas and it's 110 degrees and you can go skiing up in Mount Charleston. It's crazy.
All right.
Anyway,
well,
sorry, I admit to go on that.
That's all right. If I ever find the chest, I've always said I'm kind of probably gonna keep half and maybe hide the rest. I'm gonna rehide the chest somewhere.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of said maybe Mount Charleston might not be a bad place to hide the chest. So it'll get people to Vegas, and I don't know how many people will actually want to go to Mount Charleston, but we'll see. Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. So I'm kind of starting to go up there to kind of do training, right? I go up in the mountains and it kind of starts.
Yeah, elevation, get you up a little higher.
I have to. Like I said, I'm getting older, and here's the one thing I kind of want to talk about. I'm in decent shape. I've just turned 43, but I'm in decent shape for my age. Fenn's the real deal, man. When I went to Yellowstone and just got my butt kicked, it kind of made me realize that this guy spent, his childhood's there, numerous childhoods there, and that whipped him into shape, man. This guy's the real deal,
Yeah, I think we're looking at when he says don't go where a 79 or 80-year-old man
ignore that
can't go. I don't think you can completely ignore it, but you've got to take in the context of we're not talking about an average 79 or 80-year-old man. Yeah, he had a battle with cancer and that beat him up a little bit, but this is a man who spent his lifetime in the mountains and looking for artifacts and hiking and doing all this stuff and fishing all his life. We cannot underestimate this man. Well, and one of his quotes that always get me is, if you don't think I could have put it there, you're probably right. And it's like he's telling you, well, if you don't think I could have gone there, well, then I'll
tell you,
you don't know me that well. I mean, that's kind of how I read that. You're probably right. You might be right. You might be wrong.
And that's where I think he underestimated himself. Because I'll tell you what, my dad he turned 70, and this is anecdotal, but my dad was 79, and he was going strong. Do you see this video of this 100-year-old that just jumped out of a plane? Right. So
crazy. Yeah.
96 years old jumping out of a plane. Right. So I think you have to completely discount that, because Fenn is no ordinary 79, 80-year-old. Right. Look at him now. I mean, you mentioned that.
But I don't know if we can completely discount it. I mean, there's people out there trying to rappel down the sides of cliffs and other crazy stuff. I mean, it's where do you stop though? I mean, it is completely subjective, because we're not talking about an average 79 or 80-year-old man. It's so hard to do that unless you're going to take your own grandpa, who you think is about the same capability as Forrest Fenn. I mean, maybe that's a good indicator. Quit taking little kids with you out to the forest looking for Fenn's treasure. Take an old fart with you, and if the old fart runs out of wind at a half a mile, well, guess what? You've walked too far, I guess. I don't know.
I don't think Fenn is he's no ordinary guy, man.
No, he's not. He's not.
And I think like I said, I think he might have underestimated his own abilities on that one. That's just my opinion, man.
Sure.
But I'm trying to take opinion out of the equation, and that's kind of why I said where it's not, right. So we kind of take opinion out of the equation and say, you know what, it's not here. We know it's not here for whatever reasons. Then that's good. That map that he showed, that he provided, is going to get reduced to areas that I think are.
I mean, one of the big obvious ones is you can obviously reduce areas that are below 5,000 feet and above 10,200. Now that only applies to where the treasure chest is physically located.
That's correct.
That shouldn't eliminate where you believe warm waters halt.
I agree.
Or even your canyon down. I mean, or too far to walk. If you think you're going up a creek, maybe that creek puts you up above 5,000 feet once you go up it, if that's your interpretation of the clues. So you've got to understand that whatever we're eliminating is just, Eddie, from what I'm getting from you, is just where the treasure chest is located.
Right.
Not all, if you think all 9 clues are geographical locations along a string, then, you've got to understand that your warm water halt could be above 10,200 feet or could be below 5,000. Or it could even be out of the search states.
Well, again, I'm going to go back to that dartboard challenge. If you were to throw a dart at us and it just lands somewhere, then you can start reverse engineering, and you can say, okay, it landed in this spot. I can go on Google Earth and I can ask myself, Are there warm waters around there? Is there water high around there? You can start asking yourself these questions that are going to eliminate certain things, right? And so I think we kind of start reverse engineering this thing. I think that's an approach that might help better the probability.
And Iron Will says in here, he said at the flip side, well, that's the problem, Sean. He didn't say him. He said people who go looking for the treasure should not search where a 79 or 80-year-old man could not take it. Well, it's inferred that he's talking about himself, Iron. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, you've got to think, what is a 79 or 80-year-old person capable of doing? But again, Iron, we are talking about Forrest Fenn. We know he's the one that hit it. But we have to take that into account. Even a 79 or 80-year-old Forrest Fenn is not going to go skydiving into a location. He's not going to rappel into a location. He's not going to do wild and crazy things. And us average, 30 to 50-year-old searchers shouldn't be doing those things as well. And we've seen some people make some mistakes and lose their lives, and this. And we, the most dangerous thing we do, guys, when we go searching for this is not crossing a waterway. It's not crossing a steep precipice. It's not, hiking over large rocks and everything else. It's getting in our car, leaving our home, and driving to our search spots. That's the most dangerous thing we do when we go searching. So what are we supposed to do? Stop driving our cars? We can't do that. I mean, so guys, it's all relative, guys.
Yellowstone is inherently dangerous. And as soon as you drive into Yellowstone, they give you a pamphlet saying this place is effing dangerous, right? And so just
I didn't see the effing in mine, but okay.
You didn't get that part?
I didn't get that part.
I got the special edition.
I guess I got the 13 and under version,
But so yeah, guys, it's dangerous. Just even being on flat run. Like I said, I didn't realize just crossing the Madison got me in trouble, right? So it's dangerous, but I still think it's there. I think it could be there or Yellowstone or New Mexico. I'm kind of leaning, but I don't know. But again, I'm lost. I don't know where to go, and so this is where I'm kind of like, I need to regroup. And what I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna regroup. I'm gonna come up with 5 or 6 different possible areas that I think have higher probabilities, and then maybe next year, or maybe I don't know, maybe this year. Next year,
Journeyman says, and this is talking about your whole throwing the dart analogy. He said, if 1,000 people threw a dart, 1 dart would land on the chest.
No, let's take that a step further. How many searchers have there been?
Well, I think that the number 350,000 has been thrown around, whether that's number of searches or searchers.
Let's just say we assigned. I don't know how I'm going to do the math and figure out how many acres are within the map. But let's just say we divided the acres within the 350,000 and said, okay, you have your 5 acres. Go search your area. This is your area, right?
Right.
And so that kind of thing, right? So the more we can kind of scientifically deduce the areas where we.
Can I ask for my 5 acres to include a hot tub and a pub? Those are the 2 things I want. As long as there's a pub and a hot tub within my 5 acres, dude, I will search there all the time.
So like I said, I'm that guy with no friends. I'm on
when you got a hot tub and a pub, you got friends, buddy.
Hey man, you'll get friends really quick, right? I'm on a few groups on Facebook. I'm on one called Off Grid Living for Beginners.
Yeah.
And man, I'll tell you right now, man, if I did find that chest, I'd probably just kind of chop up a piece of land, chop down some trees, build a cabin, and cool.
Right on.
I'd have a bar. There too. So I don't know if that's a pub.
You can have a bar in your house and a hot tub.
There you go. So I'll invite you over, man.
There we go, brother. We gotta have some girls though. Gotta invite the wives.
Right. So I don't know if people are willing to share their solves or their fails. You kind of have to have a little bit of humility and say, you know what,
a lot of people share their solves.
So if they're willing to share them with me, I'm willing to kind of try to make it legitimate. And if I can verify the information, I'll put it on the map. And that way, if you're willing to provide their contact information, if somebody else thinks that it might be in the same area and they want to go search that area, you might have missed it. I want to go search it again. I want to contact you, blah, 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 that kind of thing. Right. So
well, I've got to tell you that I think you've earned a new moniker since you've been on the show.
Shit.
Everybody, well, not everybody. A few people have called you Fast Eddie.
Yeah. This is why I was kind of afraid to be on your show because I have a speech.
No, don't be afraid. It's great.
I obviously have a speech problem, but
no, you don't.
I can't get the words fast out of my head enough. So yeah. It's not the first time I've been called that, believe me or not. And believe me,
I think it's a good thing. No, it's funny.
I used to be able to say the whole alphabet in 2.3 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how fast I
Yeah.
used to speak. So I used to be faster.
I'm trying to work on actually reciting the poem backwards. I think that would be fun, just to mess with people.
Well, that 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 helps with reverse engineer, with reverse engineering, and I don't think that's a
Right.
bad thing. My point is that like we've tried to follow the instructions, and we've all failed, right?
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah. Yeah.
we have to start maybe
I
considering a
hate,
different approach.
I honestly, I've gotten this new mindset where I'm tired of people saying everybody has a failed solve. Don't think of it that way. Again, I'm a half glass, half full kind of guy. I mean, I don't think it's a failed solve. I think it's just a failed recovery. Because how many people, I mean, Eddie, if obviously we've had people that have come within 500 feet. We've had people come within 200 feet and maybe even closer than that. We don't know because Forrest Fenn doesn't know exactly because not
Right.
everybody tells him exactly where they've been. So, was that person who got within 200 feet, was that a failed solve? Or was it just a failed recovery? Was it a failed complete solve? I mean, we can get into the difference between complete, a correct solve and a general solve. You
I mean,
know, uh,
I'll get a little more
it's
philosophical.
semantics. I know it's just
Well, I'll get a little more
semantics, and we
philosophical.
can argue about it all day.
I went looking for the chest, and I found something else. I found nature. I found,
Yeah.
I found an admiration for farmers. I found a lot of things. So I think that's kind of what Fenn's goal was, and I think he's been successful at that.
Sure.
So in terms of failing, failure is part of success, right? And if you don't fail, you're not going to succeed. It's just that simple. You have to make mistakes, and you learn from the mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do here is ask ourselves, where did we go wrong? What are our mistakes? And let's correct those mistakes so we could try to increase our chances.
We're adjusting. And isn't that what Forrest Fenn has said? The treasure chest is going to be found by the one who can best adjust. And isn't that I've compared the analogy to a little bit of how Thomas Edison created the light bulb. And people beat me up about this, but again, Thomas Edison failed numerous times trying to invent the incandescent light bulb. Every time he failed, he had to adjust. He had to test something that worked because nobody else had done that before. Nobody else has found Forrest Fenn's treasure. So we're all out there testing our theories and then coming back on our 10-hour ride home back to Vegas or wherever. And we're in our mind going, okay, like you're saying, Eddie, what did I do wrong?
Right.
Where have I gone wrong? How can I best adjust to be successful the next time or to test out a new theory? You have to keep testing ideas. And those people that come back from what they call a failed solve, they might have been 200 feet from the treasure. They don't They don't know it 100%. They believe it in their heart and in their mind they were close, but they don't know it. So they've got to come back and they've got to reevaluate. But if they just give up on that, obviously somebody just gave up on being 200 feet away from the treasure and didn't find it. Somebody did, but they never adjusted. They never knew that they were that close, and they never adjusted and potentially went back. Now, could they theoretically be this, mythical lead dog creature that is out there with the unicorn sticking out of their head and wings? I mean, who knows? But that person may never have adjusted and corrected themselves and thought.
I think the key thing that you said here was to reevaluate.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people didn't do that. So that being said, I think the people talk about the key word. I think the key word is creek. And the reason I think that is because I reevaluated the situation. I said, hey, wait a minute. What word in here can I take? If I was to take out this word of the poem, would make the most dramatic effect geographically. Yeah. And to me, that was creek. If I take this word out of the poem, well, now geographically, it changes the game, right? So to me, if you're not by a creek, whether it's dry or not, then you're not by the chest. But it was by failure and reevaluation that now I'm like, okay, now when I go on my next search, I'm gonna have that much more confident that I'm going to an area that might have a higher probability than
sure. Yeah.
areas.
Yeah.
So I think that's all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to increase my chances. I'm a Vegas guy.
Well, I think it's a good way. I mean, I think we ought to be thinking of, and I'm not saying your idea is a new idea, because I don't know for 100% that it is a new idea, but I think it's something that if we're continuing not to be successful, what do we need to do differently? Is this is this a get back in the box idea, Eddie? Is this, Forrest Fenn is kind of told us that we need to get back in the box. What do you think that means to you? Do you think that this idea of yours is encompassing or grasping that whole concept of getting back in the box?
Absolutely. I mean, the whole thing we're trying to do here is to keep it simple, right? We're trying to just make it as simplified as much as we can, to try to bring that number of from astronomical to probable, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So that maybe somebody will get lucky, right? And so,
not lucky. It shouldn't be about luck.
It shouldn't be, but I'm just talking just numbers wise.
If you can get at least within several steps of the treasure, then maybe you'll get lucky, right?
Well, so I think if you find that the blaze, you're gonna be fine. So I think we'll know that if the chest is found, because the whole point is to make. I mean, we want it just because we want the money, right? So if the chest is found, somebody's gonna have to start selling those pieces in order to make some money off this, or else what's the point, right? So if those pieces start popping up in the public, then we know the chest will be found. And so the fact that we haven't found any pieces in the public kind of tells me that the chest is still out there.
Right.
Unless somebody.
What if somebody that was extremely wealthy found it and just wanted to put it in their basement and only show their other wealthy friends, hey, look, I found it, and look at all these knuckleheads out there running around still looking for this thing. I mean, that'd be a horrible thing.
Yeah, I think.
But there's some pretty, egotistical, narcissistic people that could probably do something like that.
You took the word out of my mouth. I think somebody that's wealthy and rich their ego wouldn't allow them to not announce it, right?
So
sure. Would you announce it? I mean, are you going to wait your 30 days if you find it?
I've got a different idea on that whole plan. I think I've talked about this many times. I think everybody in the search community is going to want to know three things, and that is, where was it? That's the number one thing. Where was the treasure located? They just want to know because they want to go, see, I told you it was in Yellowstone, or see, I told you it was in New Mexico, or all you assholes, I told you it was in Colorado. Everybody's just going to want to do that. The second thing everybody's going to want to know, in my opinion, is what was the correct solve? What was your Warren Waters Hall? What was the canyon down? What was not too far to walk? What was the blaze? What was all this other stuff? And then lastly, they're just going to want to know who found it. And nobody really gives a rat's ass who found it. They really want to know just where it was and what was it. Then if whoever it was, then I think it's dangerous to admit that you were the person that found it. I think there's a lot of, Sassy, she was on Toby's show here a couple months back, and she talked about all the legal crap that she went through from just finding, $100,000 treasure out there from
right.
all these people on the forums that were saying that was their saw, blah, 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 everything else. And we're trying to sue her. Can you imagine the Pandora's box that is going to be open really when this thing is found, and especially if that finder comes forward? Geez. It could really be ugly for that person. So who knows? What's the best thing to do? Yeah. I'd love to see this thing go on. Is this really a quest to cease? He says in there, your quest to cease. Is this really a quest to cease? Do we, or should we really end this quest? As an eventual finder, would you want this quest to end?
I wouldn't. Like I said, I've already kind of said if I find this chest, I would always want to pass it on. I'm going to at least take the physical chest. Yeah. At least take that chest and do something with that and at least hide that, right? But I want to know something else. Who's going to play you in the movie if you find the chest?
Probably the dorkiest guy you could find.
I'm trying to. I don't know, man. I'm trying to think who. Tom Cruise? How about Tom Cruise? We can get Tom Cruise to play you.
I hear that a little bit. No, what's that? Seth Rogen or something.
No, that guy's a douchebag. No, man.
Right.
No, I can see Tom Cruise playing you, man.
Right. Well, I think, is this a quest to cease? And I think that I would like to see it go on for those people that just enjoy the thrill of the chase. I think the number one thing that the finder, in my opinion, a lot of people would disagree with this, that owes the community, and owes is I use that in a very loose term, is it to provide irrefutable proof to the search community that the treasure has been found. And that because if you just go to Forrest and you give him your bracelet and you walk off, and Forrest turns around and tells the search community, okay, treasure's been found and I'm not revealing anything else, everybody's going to pop out of the woodworks and go, oh my God, it's a hoax. Forrest Fenn sent Shiloh to get it because Forrest Fenn had too much pressure on him, blah, 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 everything else. I think that the search community needs irrefutable proof in some way to prove that the treasure chest has been found. And then that stops everybody from going out there and looking for something that isn't there. If that's all they are interested in, if all they're interested in is the Corey and not the thrill of the chase, then I think you're missing the whole point of this whole endeavor.
You're not worthy.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you're not worthy, I mean, who are we to judge the person who eventually finds this, whether they're a worthy person or not? They found it. We didn't find it. We have no way to judge that person. But I think that for those that still love the thrill, that are in this just to match wits with Forrest Fenn, or just in this because they love solving puzzles, they love getting out there in the mountains and looking at beautiful things, and hey, it's just an interesting byproduct that there's a multi-million-dollar treasure out there, waiting for someone to be found. Then why not, or why would you reveal the correct solve?
So
I mean, if you're out just for the money, okay, well then it's a quest to cease, I guess.
So here's my thing is that, even if you have that chest, let's say you find the chest, you're claiming that where the Homer Brown is, where where all these places are.
Sure.
But you still really can't verify that without Fenn, right?
And you've already verified it because you have the treasure.
No, that's not necessarily true. What if
it won't matter? I mean, you could say you threw peanut butter up against the wall, and that was your Homer Brown. I mean,
but you still can't say for sure whether that. I mean, that's just your guess, and you found the chest, but it could have been by accident, right? So, so that's what I'm saying is that there's no way of verifying.
You still feel it's important to be able to have that moment, and I'm not disagreeing with you, to have that moment with Forrest Fenn and to sit down with him and go, "Hey, here was my interpretation of the 9 clues." And him say, "Yeah, you're absolutely right," or "How the hell did you figure that out?" I mean, is that what you're saying, or what do you?
No, I kind of hate to talk about this because I don't like the idea of Fenn passing, but
sure, nobody likes to talk about it.
Yeah, but in other words,
it's an eventuality. I mean, it's going to happen.
If he's gone, in other words, if he's gone and somebody finds the chest by, let's just say by luck, right? They might have gotten the first few clues right and veered off and then gotten back on track and found it by luck. There's no way for them to say this is the Homer Brown and for it to be verified. Okay, I found the chest, but I still have no way of verifying that Homer Brown is what Fenn's Homer Brown was.
Sure.
So that's all I'm saying is that the verification wise, the only person that can verify that the 9 clues are correct is Fenn. Even the person that finds his chest can't really confirm that, I got the 9 clues right.
Yeah, because they may have, it's like Forrest Fenn has said, if somebody was able to decipher the first few clues in the poem, they could find the treasure. Right. It may not be easy, but it's definitely not impossible. I could walk right straight to it. So theoretically, in Forrest Fenn's own words, somebody could solve the first few clues and find the treasure. Then there's 6 more remaining clues out there.
Right.
Whatever those 6 are, if you didn't solve them, you may not know for certain what those 6 were. You probably at least figured out where Warm Waters Halt was, and nailed that down in order to find it. So you'd know that for certain, I would think.
Well, I'll go back to that dartboard challenge. Let's just say I was to throw a dartboard, and let's just say my dartboard hit. Yeah. Let's just say my dart actually hit for whatever reason, it actually hit where the treasure chest is, and I was to go there. Then I was to reverse engineer then I would have to ask myself, where's the HOB, where's the Warm Waters Halt, et cetera, et cetera. But I might not be right? So because there could be, I'll give you a good example where Madison Junction is. It says take it in the canyon down, where there's more than one canyon, right?
Sure.
So it could be a situation where there's 3 canyons and you pick the right one, but how do you know, right? So I don't think that the poem can be verified in terms of being solved. It's just, you could say I found the chest and I got it right, but you can't really confirm that. Only Fenn can confirm that the 9 clues are correct.
But it's almost like you've already found the treasure. Why does it even matter at that point?
Exactly. So who cares?
Yeah, I mean, you could make up whatever you want. You could say it was wherever you wanted to say it was.
If I find the chest, do you really think I'm going to tell you where I found it? No.
That's the whole question.
So
is the finder. Does the finder even have to reveal where it was?
No.
I mean, those are the things that they want to know.
The answer is no. I got an A in ethics, and the ethical question is, does the person that finds it just have an obligation? I think maybe because people are kind of putting their lives in danger. And
well, it's a moral obligation. Sure.
but I don't think people have an ethical obligation to reveal that they found the chest.
Right.
People are going to find out when people are going to find out the chest was found when the pieces start showing up in pawn shops.
Right. Well, I hope they don't show up in pawn shops.
That's
I think. I mean, my personal opinion is I like to think that see that thing stay together.
I think that. Well,
I mean, I think Forrest Fenn is a national treasure, and I think that his treasure should be considered that as well. Just my opinion. I mean, I think what he's done is amazing.
Well, I
national
think
national treasure 4.
I don't know about that. I think it's worth more if you keep it together.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at the same time, I've thought about it, and it might be better financially to piece it off.
Well, I mean, let's think about it. There's the secondary market of the treasure. What money, if you're really a person that's interested in money and your 15 minutes of fame and blah, 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 and blah, what other ways could you profit off of being finder of the treasure? If you don't have to reveal. You could, there's a secondary market as far as like books and movies and everything else that you don't theoretically even have to sell the treasure if you didn't want to. You could just keep it.
That's true.
And then go re-hide it 10 years later if you wanted to and keep the chase going on and just make money off book deals and book signings and, Chaseopoly games and other kinds of stuff that's out there. I mean, you could do whatever you want.
Or I can go to Rosarito and sit on the beach and sell a piece of gold here and there, right?
You could, absolutely. Who are we as the non-finders to tell you what you can and cannot do?
Right. So
Forrest Fenn himself has even said, I don't want to, in that Moby Dickens interview from November 2nd of 2013, when somebody asked, I think a lady asked him, do you have other comparable treasures for your children? Or no, it wasn't that one. Oh boy, everybody's going to fry me for not knowing this one. Do you have heartfelt wishes for how the treasure, is to be spent, the recovery from the treasure? And Forrest Fenn had said, no, I don't want to put any implications or anything on the eventual finder. And I know it's in there. I know I'm totally paraphrasing and getting it wrong, but Forrest Fenn basically had said, I'm not going to try and tell the eventual finder what to do, so I think that, the eventual finder, all of us have to respect the fact of who, he or she, whoever that eventual finder is, can do whatever they want. If they want to melt it all down and have it put into a grill and put a big chain around there that says finder, they can do whatever the hell they want to. Who are we to tell them what to do?
I got a feeling the person that finds the chest will do the right thing. So.
Yeah. Well, if they're wise enough to find the treasure, I think they're wise enough and wiser than all of us on how to deal with it. That's my thought.
I don't know, man. I'm trying to get to the point where I just get lucky. Like I said, because that number, that probability number is just so astronomical that I'm just trying to get it to where I'm going to get lucky. And like I said, I already found my treasure.
There's been people before that have kind of, tried to compare this to the lottery, where you pick 6-7 numbers and you hope to get lucky. I honestly, I don't like that analogy. And I don't think that's what you're trying to say here, Eddie. I really don't. But this shouldn't be about luck. This should be about, earning it. This should be about somebody who's taking the time to really think and trying to figure this thing out to get there. And luck has nothing to do with it. Luck is, you stumbling upon something. That's lucky. And this is not something that somebody's going to stumble upon. They're going to figure out the clues and walk to this thing and uncover it.
So I think that's
I don't mean that it's buried. I'm just saying they're going to find it.
So Fenn said it might be 1,000 years before this thing is found, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And if that's the case, it's because in 1,000 years, somebody is just wandering and boom, they get lucky and find this thing, right? So
kind of like the Rosetta Stone that he talks a lot about.
Yeah.
The Rosetta Stone, there was no poem to find the Rosetta Stone. Somebody stumbled across that thing and as part of a piece of architecture of a building,
right?
That it was used as a wall, and it was uncovered quite literally because wind had, uncovered it, and somebody found it and saw, what the heck is this? And realized that it was something important.
So that being said, Sean, I really think people need to approach this chase as Forrest would if he was a boy. I really think that's the context we have to approach this chase. And the reason I say that is because I know when I was a kid, I just wanted to go. I was curious. I wanted to go. I wanted to search areas and just wherever I was, I just wanted to kind of see what's there. And so if you kind of take into account all these things we've talked about tonight, I think it's in an area by a waterfall, not too far off the road, that's out of sight, even though it's not, even though it's not too far from view. So I'm just trying to get all these factors and combine them and come up with more confident solves. And I think if we kind of
try and like, this whole flip the script is tonight about trying to identify where the treasure isn't. Exactly. So that we can isolate and narrow down the odds or increase the odds of finding this. No, I respect that. I get what you're saying.
Like I said, I'm trying to find this in our lifetimes, man. I don't know how much time we have left, man. So
you know what? When I sat down with Forrest nearly almost a year ago, and it was August 21st of 2018. One of the questions I asked Forrest was, what have you learned in these 8 years of this treasure hunt? What is it? We're all learning stuff, but what is it you've learned? And he had quoted something he said before was that, 7% of the population is crazy, and I look at this and I go, it's always crazy people that are trying to convince everyone that they're not crazy. It's only the truly sane people that are willing to admit they're a little crazy. And I think all of us in this search community are a little bit crazy. We all are. We're a bunch of treasure hunters in this group. There's 120 some odd people in the chat room tonight. We're all a little bit crazy. Not any one of us are crazier than the other. We're all a little bit crazy, but what's crazy? We've got people out there that are living their 9-to-5 jobs. They're going out there, they're coming home, they're eating dinner, they're watching their sitcom, they're kissing the kids, good night, they're going to bed, and they're rinsing, repeating every night without ever having an adventure. Who are the crazy ones? Is it us treasure hunters that are crazy, or those people that have given up on that 13-year-old, adventurous, crazy person inside them, their imaginative self? I think we're the sane ones. Everybody else is crazy.
Like I said, I don't want to get too philosophical, but like I said, I hate to admit this, it took me 16 years to get my 4-year degree. So I finally got it in 2018.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I finally got it, and I said, I just need to take a trip, man. And that's why I went to Yellowstone. I need to get away. And it was very spiritual for me, like I said, I found my treasure. But that being, and so like I ended up going to LA. I got a really good paying job, but it was taking me 2.5 hours to get there one way. I said, no way, sucks, man. Yeah. And so I couldn't get out of there fast enough. That being said, there's people say that the definition of crazy is kind of doing the same thing over and expecting different results. Yeah. And that's what I'm trying to avoid is let's not make the same mistakes twice. Right. Sure. And so as searchers, let's kind of get together and figure out what mistakes we're making so we don't make those same mistakes. And maybe one of us will find this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense.
I agree. No, I absolutely agree with you. We got to figure out, and that's, a big part of, we had that discussion with Minotaur Marino, my good friend Justin, about what does that whole get back in the box, statement by Forrest mean? Why is he telling us to get back in the box? What does that mean? Does that imply that at one point in time we were within the box, that we were thinking more simplified? We didn't have all the noise back in 2010 to 2013, even talking with Dale Neitzel on the last show with Rodney Greenway. We got into that discussion. What was the chase like back between those years of 2010 to 2013 and the time where Forrest Fenn wasn't as interactive? There wasn't as much information. We didn't have 4 books out there, and it was a different world. And that was the world where people got within 200 feet of the treasure. And we don't know for certain that people are, still getting within 200 feet or closer than that. Because Forrest Fenn's not giving us an update on that. We have to assume that nobody has.
So here's the thing. You would think that as there's more searchers that are looking for it, that it would reduce the possible search areas. Sure. But because we don't know if places are being searched over and over again.
Yeah.
We don't know what's happening there.
Sure.
I told that's my train of thought.
No. I think you're on a good train of thought. I think that you're saying that, many people are searching, the same locations over, are going back to the same locations. And I don't think that's such a bad thing. I mean, if somebody had been within 200 feet, then it is a location that's been searched before. So why are we looking at areas that haven't been searched before? And I think that maybe that might be one of those, areas that you could narrow it down. Where are places that people haven't searched? Why are you searching there? Because if no one searched there, then you're not within 200 feet of the treasure. I mean, maybe I'm not making sense.
Well, no, so I remember what I was going to say. I think it's about keeping it simple, right? Mm-hmm. And so I hate to be critical, but like anagrams, people are using guys, come on.
Oh, you're going to piss off anagrams.
I know I'm going to piss off.
I know he's probably in here somewhere.
Where is he? But come on. I mean, he's to keep it simple, and I just try to put yourself in Forrest's head. I don't think Forrest is an anagram kind of guy, right? And so I think
we don't think he is, but we don't know.
I don't think he is, but what I'm saying is I don't think he is. Put yourself in his shoes.
Sure.
Whether it's him as a 13-year-old boy or whatever it is, put yourself in his shoes when you're looking for this treasure chest.
Yeah.
Don't use anagrams.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So let's so how do you want to conclude this? What is your let's wrap this up. Let's come to a conclusion of, Eddie, what this is your idea, where the treasure isn't, and trying to apply more layers to this map on, that you're going to communicate with this owner of Into the Forest, website.
Yeah.
So let's synopsize that, and let's get people focused on you and sending you information and ideas.
I'm open to ideas, guys. I'm open to ideas. This is kind of a group, a team thing. Like, hey, let's just kind of find this thing already. So the answer is I don't know. I want input from the community to say, what can we add? What ideas do you have that what makes it easier for you to find this chest, right? What would make it easier for you to say, okay, I'm not going to search this area. I'm open to ideas. And so if you can just kind of give my email address, people kind of send me their ideas. I'll forward it to
and that's Eddie the architect, right?
Yeah, Eddie the architect. Although I have to disclose that I'm not an architect legally yet.
And is that in the description? Eddie the not so yet completed architect.com.
I got my degree. I had to do internship and I have to take a big battery of tests. The reason I did that was because I'm a Seinfeld fan. And so I've been studying architecture for a long time, but George Costanza would tell, I'm an architect. You try to impress people. I'm an architect, right? Yeah. And so when I started studying architecture, people started calling me an architect. And so to try to impress girls, I'd say, yeah, I'm an architect. And so I just, even though I wasn't.
And now you press them by saying it's too far to walk, baby.
I ain't worried about you, man. I got gold to find.
And it worked, but you just didn't follow up with it. I'm telling you. Okay, Eddie the architect at where? What is it?
At yahoo.com. She was a cute girl, man. I'd like to run into her again.
You totally blew that. There was your chance, right? Stars align, everything else. Forrest Fenn was right there. Eddie, here's your opportunity, and it just didn't work out, did it? You got to jump on these things, man. Luck was on your side right then and there.
I hate to brag about IQ. I'm technically a genius, but I have my moments, man.
Right.
I'm stupid sometimes. Really
you need to find a genius girl. And there's several of them in this chase. We're gonna make a match made for you. We're gonna have finmatch.com.
How many matches have there already been?
There's been quite a few, actually.
Yeah.
There has been.
I'm single. Single and looking.
There you go, ladies. Okay, so Eddie the architect at yahoo.com. I'll put your email in the description down below so people can email you. Anything else you want to tell people? Or
I apologize for being fast, Eddie. I really, really wanted to put on a good show.
You're watching too much of Mike Cowling's show. You're sitting down having way too much coffee with Mike.
It's just I'm just a hype man. It's
got
awesome.
A lot of energy. I love it, brother. No, it's good.
So I apologize if I wasn't clear tonight.
No, you've been perfectly clear, brother.
All right, cool.
So I think I've caught up. Let me just make sure we don't have any more questions in the chat room here. Again, the chat room is really good about just completely ignoring us and doing their own thing.
That's funny.
And we're completely good about ignoring them too.
Yeah. So I'm Eduardo Juaregui on Facebook. I'm sure. I comment a lot. But I'm that guy. That's kind of plays devil advocate a lot.
Sure.
So,
and we need that. We need people to check ourselves.
Yeah, I know. That's why I do it.
Yeah. It's good. It's good.
I hate being
get
that
a lot
guy.
of it.
I hate being that guy, but I can't avoid it. I just can't.
Somebody's got to be that guy.
It's me.
It's you. It's you. It's totally.
I'm that guy.
I'm that guy. Well, guys, it's been a fun show tonight. I always like to ask at the end of the show, if you like this show, give it a thumbs up. And guys, I don't care if YouTube likes this show or not. I care if you, the viewers of this show and the subscribers of this show, like it. So if you like it, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, well, there's another button for you too, and you're free to use that as well. And if you're not a subscriber of the channel and you like what you see and you're having fun with this, hey, click the little subscribe button and the bell and you'll get notifications when we go live. And if you're interested in being a guest on the flip side, flip the script where you get to be the host and pick a topic and we go down that rabbit hole together, send me an email. My email's right here, SeanNM@hotmail.com. That's right. I'm a hot male, folks. Don't tell my wife. Anyway, guys, it's been fun. It's been real. I've got no more beer, so it's time to get out of here. So we will catch you all on the flip side. Good night, guys.
Thanks, Sean.